What's going on? It's your boy Mixmaster B here, live from the MMB radio studios for the MMB radio podcast, where no topic is too big or too small. We talk about them all. And on the phone lines right now, I have an artist that you may have seen some of his work on Tops for Project 70 and Project 2020. He also has all kinds of amazing artwork, sports artwork, through his website. And we're going to talk a little bit trading cards and some art with him tonight. So I want to welcome in Mr. Blake Jamieson. Blake, what's going on, man?
What's going on?
Doing awesome, man. And so you're calling us from Brooklyn tonight, right?
That's right.
All right, but you are originally from the Bay Area, if I'm doing my research correctly.
Yeah, Marin County, just north of San Francisco.
Okay, so I got a lot of questions I want to ask you tonight, but I guess the first thing I want to note on that is, so did you grow up a Giants fan or an A's fan?
To be honest, I grew up season tickets to the A's, but that was just because Candlestick was so cold. And so in my household, we liked the Giants and the A's. We went and saw A's games in the, what was that, at the Coliseum.
Yeah.
I'm a Giants fan too. And so like especially when Giants moved to AT&T Park, I was back in the Bay Area. That's actually kind of right at the beginning of my professional art career about 6 years ago when the Giants were winning every other year they'd win a World Series. So I was at some of those games, usually just the regular season games, not the World Series, but
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I had to ask because I know there's city business and there's town business, and city business and town business don't mix. So I want to make sure that, if you were all A's or you're all Giants, so kind of dabbed a little bit in both, which is great that you had, access to two teams. I always tell people that
for sure.
I wish I was alive back when the A's were in Philadelphia here, because just the thought of having two options in Philadelphia between the Phillies and the Athletics, but I'm an old soul. I always keep telling people, I wish I was able to visit the stadiums like Connie Mack and, Eddit's Field and all those type of things. I would have just been in all my glory for that. But you mentioned that now you've only been getting real big with your artwork in the last 6 years, but how did you start out becoming an artist? Was this something that you've done since you were a child, or, kind of take us through how that all just came about?
Yeah, of course. I grew up in a very creative household. My dad was a photographer, kind of turned computer programmer really when the internet boom took off. And so he's like an art collector too. There's tons of art in my house. My mom is also creative. She makes mosaics. My grandmother, who owns the family property that we all live on, she paints. So I grew up all around art, but I had kind of convinced myself that art wasn't a career, per se, kind of get, talked to about the starving artist, right, is kind of the cultural expectation. And so I didn't pursue art, beyond just doing it as a hobby, despite my parents even encouraging me to go to art school. So I studied economics, and then I ended up getting into digital marketing really kind of right when social media was really starting to take off and become mainstream is when I was graduating college. And so it was a whole new industry that there wasn't any rules, there wasn't any requirements. You just had to essentially be creative to figure out this new way to market brands. And so I did that for 8 years, and it was great because it challenged me creatively for a while. I was able to do copywriting, graphic design, video editing for clients to kind of promote themselves online. But at the end of the day, it didn't really it wasn't fulfilling. It didn't make me happy. And so when I turned 30 is really when I decided I wanted to do something different. And
well,
it wasn't necessarily,
they say life starts at 30, right? So, I mean, you were right on par.
Yeah. I mean, I think I was making great money, living in Phoenix, Arizona. I bought a house working for this big corporate, $1 billion company. But it was clocking in and clocking out, and I just dreaded Mondays and looked forward to Fridays. So I just knew that I had to change something. So I put in notice, to leave that job with the kind of personal goal and expectation of just finding something that would make me happy to do every single day. And it wasn't immediately obvious, I want to leave this job in marketing to become a painter. It was just, I want to figure it out. And in that process of figuring it out, kind of painting found me again. And, it's been a really, really fun adventure ever since.
And that's a big risk because a lot of people, don't just take something that's secure, like a job for, like you said, $1 billion company. And living a pretty decent, happy, life aside from, the clocking in and clocking out Monday to Friday, to take a chance on yourself to do something that you even said yourself was, it was like, I don't know if this is a job that I can, live off of. But
right.
What made you get into the sports aspect of it? Because the sports part of it is what really intrigued me, because it's something that I don't see a whole lot of art being directed to the sports world.
Right. Yeah. I mean, honestly, it was a little bit of a right place, right time. I think that everything happens for a reason. When I started painting full time, my network from working in marketing was people that worked at PR firms and marketing agencies and tech startups. And so at first I knew that having a focus for my art would be important. And so my focus at first was, I will create inspirational art for your office. And so my target customer was like somebody that was raising a Series A round and moving out of a co-working space into their own space. And then I could kind of design art for that environment. And I did pretty well with that. And I think part of that is because having those relationships, and the other part is like having the focus. And I was delivering art to a client in Las Vegas, Nevada so this was 2017, I think it was 2017, maybe 2018. And I met this guy who was an NFL, like retired NFL player who now managed NFL players. And he really liked my work and highly encouraged me to see if I could break in, and basically offered to plug me in with a few of his clients where the expectation was I would be painting for free, but in exchange, he would make sure that they would promote me to their teammates and to their social media channels. And from my marketing background, like, I know that has value, and immediately that made sense to me. And so I did those first paintings for free, and I was kind of able to leverage that, into paid work. And, at the same time, I still have used kind of what I call strategic gifting, where I pick a player and we'll do a piece of art for them in exchange for a little bit of social media promotion. That kind of remained part of my growth strategy for quite some time.
Now, when you're deciding on what artist or what athlete you're going to go ahead and paint, how do you decide? Is it more just, a commission thing, or is it just something that you just, whoever's hot at the moment that you want to decide to do? Because, obviously you did a lot of stuff for Topps, but I know you do other stuff, and I've seen some of the stuff you've done. You've done, painting some Muhammad Ali, and, so many other things outside of just, the baseball projects. But how do you determine who you're going to paint?
Yeah, well, it's a mix. I have, like the Muhammad Ali that you mentioned, that was a passion project that it was such an iconic moment in sports history, and I just felt like I needed to paint it. And it was also really right at the beginning of 2020, where I was thinking about like getting bigger with my paintings. And so like that, at the time, that Muhammad Ali was the biggest painting I'd ever done. And I also think it's like one of the biggest sports moments of history. And that was just, I was inspired by it, and I was excited to do it. And I still have that painting, in my apartment, which I love. And then, we have the top stuff, and a lot of the other athlete stuff is driven by commissions. And so people will hire me, and sometimes it's the athlete themselves. Sometimes it's the agent, as a gift for example, making the Pro Bowl or breaking a team record. Sometimes it's the wife or the girlfriend. Valentine's Day is always a busy time for me. And so like most of the work that I'm working on is commission based, but every time I get too bogged down with, back to back commissions, it kind of like, it reminds me of when I got stuck in that 9 to 5 where I was like in the job and I need to feel like I need to like do something just for myself. And usually that's when something like the Ali comes out, is when I've got like back to back commissions with rules, and then I just want to go and do something completely for myself.
Now, on average, how long does it take to do, a piece of work? I mean, I know they're all different sizes and, different details, but how long, like if someone were to say, hey, I want to do a commission, you said Valentine's Day, huge busy time of the year, but how often, how quickly are you able to knock something out for somebody?
Yeah, I mean, man, that varies so much. If I'm on a really tight deadline and I have to get something done, I can do it. I can usually complete a painting in like 1 to 2 days. That's usually focusing just on that one thing. But my work process is usually working on like 10 things at once and slowly completing all of them over the course of a couple weeks. And I think that like lets the pieces breathe a little bit. It lets me kind of figure out where they're going. But, there's also deadlines. Like with Top stuff, I have tight deadlines, and, there's times where I do live streams and people can watch me paint an entire painting start to finish in about 3 hours. But that's also with a ton of prep work, preparing for that live stream, cutting stencils and kind of getting everything else ready.
And I can kind of attest to that because I do stuff with graphic design, and people ask me all the time, they're like, well, how quickly can you knock something out? When can you work on it? And I always tell people, right. And I don't know, maybe this might make sense to you, and some people says it makes sense. Some people are just like, can't even understand where I'm coming from with it. But I feel like I do my best work in the real wee morning hours. So anywhere between 2 in the morning to 5 a.m. And people are like, why do you feel like the creative juices are just flowing so much then? And I tell them, I said, I think because I'm so freaking tired at that point that right. I'm not focusing on anything else. I'm using all the little bit of energy I have to stay awake, and I seem to that's when I do my best work. So when, for you, prepping and doing stuff, and like you said, doing the stencils, doing stuff for tight deadlines for Tops. First, let everybody know, how did you get to do something like Tops? Because they have a lot of great artists, a lot of people that are doing all kinds of creative stuff. How did that opportunity come about?
Yeah, Tops actually saw some work that I had done for an athlete named Paul Rabel, who is a lacrosse player who is also the co-founder of the Premier Lacrosse League with his brother. And so I had done a few paintings for him and his brother, kind of as a congratulations, as starting your own league. I played lacrosse in college, and I'd followed Paul's career and looked up to him. And so when we were able to connect online, I offered to do some paintings for him, again, for free. And kind of like with the first time meeting the agent and how free stuff turns into, paid work, Top saw it and liked it, and then reached out to just like the contact form on my website. We set up a phone call, and they explained what would turn out to be Project 2020. And, here we are. It's been about a year and a half, I guess, since that phone call, but it's been a wild ride, and I'm on my third set with Tops, and it's awesome.
Now, what's your favorite card that you've done? I mean, I know you've done a lot of them, and I'll tell you what my favorite one is, but I want to know first, which one did you enjoy the most painting, designing, creating?
Yeah. So for me, the Project 2020 Mark McGuire card is my favorite and meant the most to me, both when making it and even now, looking back, because I grew up in the Bay Area watching Mark McGuire come up to the, being called up from the minors. Even when he was on the minors, he was on Team USA. My dad and I were kind of following his career. So I have kind of this special bond and connection with Mark McGuire from meeting him as a child and just watching his career progress the way that it did. So when I got to reimagine his 87 rookie, I think it's going to be really hard to top that one.
Now, I was going to say my favorite one, and it is more of the more recent ones that you've done, is the Andrew McCutcheon, the Uncle Larry card.
Nice.
Being from the Philadelphia area, Philadelphia Phillies fan, Uncle Larry gave us a lot of excitement on what, was a pretty, long season where, a lot of, with the pandemic and everything going on. So it was really interesting to, have some a little bit extra sideshow stuff. So the Uncle Larry Andrew McCutcheon card that you have available on your website right now, people can go ahead and purchase one of those signed, correct?
Yeah, that's right. We just launched those this week on Blake.art. And that one was a fun one. That was a really iconic card from 2020. And, Project 2020 got me back into card collecting. I grew up collecting cards, but I've fallen out of it for a long time. And so that got me back into it. And then, anyone in the hobby community knows that short print McCutcheon card was, arguably the most iconic card of the year.
Yeah.
And so when 70 was explained and how it was going to work, I specifically asked to do that card, him, and I also specifically chose the 1959 design because that was coming off the back of my Project 2020 set, which is Bob Gibson in 1959. And so I wanted this smooth transition. So if people were collecting, let's just say this whole timeline of all these cards I made, we're moving from one set to the next and you can barely notice. So it was fun, man. It was a really fun one to make.
Now, the trading card industry over the last year for the pandemic is bonkers right now. Like, it is ridiculous how much people are, collecting and getting back into the hobby. And it's funny, a quick story. I always would see people just scrolling through Twitter. I see all these people, camping out at Target, camping out at Walmart. And then you start seeing the pictures of the, limited only certain amount per customer. And I was always like, oh, that's not going to happen here. It's not going to happen here. And then I walk into a Target one day and see kids and adults like laying on the floor, like if they're camping out for like concert tickets or something. And then that's when I was like, we've been infected. It's like finding out the first person in your town has COVID. And you're like, oh, it'll never happen here. We'll never get it. And then, it all hell broke loose. And, but it's great for the card industry. But what is your thoughts on, do you feel like it's something that is going to be long term, or is it something that's going to be just kind of just die off? Because a lot of people explained to me the reason why the boom of it was because people were home during the pandemic and trying to, they're cleaning out things, finding old cards, and then you had people like, Gary V going out there saying things like, oh, these cards are going to be worth money, and people just jumped on it. So do you think it's a long-term or short-term thing that's going on with the card industry?
I mean, I think I'm bullish overall. I think the card industry and collectible industry is here to stay. And I think that, like, even if we look at much more maybe bleeding edge of that, but like the whole NFT market, I think is going to enhance and change the game for trading cards and collectibles across the board. So, it's peaks and valleys. I saw with Project 2020 last year, there was, no sports going on at the time. And so people were really turning to those cards, and they did really well in terms of print runs. And then people were flipping them and making tons of money. And then even more people came in, and eventually, like, that bubble, it's not sustainable, and it kind of burst. And some people got left holding the bag, and the market kind of is corrected. And we see that in terms of like the print runs of the Project 70 cards versus peak Project 2020. We're not seeing these same crazy numbers, but we are seeing, like, I feel like a really strong core group of collectors that are collecting the cards because they like it, not because they even care where the market goes. So, I think that's important for it, but there's no denying, investment opportunities in the collectible space, the NFT space. I don't think that's going anywhere.
And I think I fall into the category of people that just enjoy the hobby itself of collecting cards. Like, I flip cards, but I'm usually flipping cards that are, I have doubles or multiples of. And, I'm just like, well, I don't really need 10 of the same card, but, let me kind of share the wealth with people. But, I mean, there are people out there that don't know anything about trading cards or sports that are just buying, blaster boxes and they're just buying stuff up and flipping it. And I don't know. I just, like, that's the thing that kind of leaves a sour taste in my mouth. Like, I'll be honest. Like, I'm not a Pokemon fan. I don't know much about Pokemon, but I know it's big. I see people talking about it on Instagram and Twitter and everything. That would be the equivalent of me buying a Pokemon box, not opening it, but just selling it for like 3 times retail, just because I know somebody's going to buy it. And people might say that's a dumb move. Like, why not do that? But like, I don't know. I'm an old school hobbyist where I enjoy opening up packs of cards and just kind of seeing who you get. So
yeah, I mean, look, I think that, like, having those people that are buying the boxes to flip the boxes, I think that that's good for the market. It doesn't bother me. I'm the same way. Like, there's a lot of different ways I can make money, and flipping like retail sports cards for like, higher markups is just not the way that I want to do it. It doesn't mean, like, I have nothing against the people that do it. And sometimes I'm paying over retail if I really want a specific box, or whatever. I don't care. I think it's all part of the ecosystem. Important.
Now, what was your favorite series of trading cards growing up that you really enjoyed the most? Like, were you obviously you work for Topps, so if you are biased, that's totally okay. But like, were you a Topps Upper Deck guy,
Honestly, I was mostly a Topps guy, as far as baseball. And so, like, the 87 with the wood grain border, like, I love those. what was it? Was it 1990? I think with the Frank Thomas rookie that has that really colorful border on top, so I think is really fun. But some Upper Deck stuff too, like the Upper Deck Ken Griffey rookie, I remember. Mm-hmm. And then also I was into like basketball cards as a kid. I did a lot of I PC'd Michael Jordan, and somewhere along the way I lost that PC. And it's crazy because we kept all the cards. We have boxes for, my dad and I collected as kids. But, it was all over the place. And I also did like Marvel and DC cards and Magic cards. I did Pokemon cards, as a kid, like Edition 1. Again, wish I had that binder today, but it's okay.
Yeah. Now, I can attest to that. I can remember being in junior high, and we had like a little school store, and they sold, school essential things like pencils and pens and notebooks and everything, but they also had like the little box there, of the packs of trading cards. And I can remember multiple times substituting eating lunch, taking my lunch money and buying packs of trading cards instead, just because, I just enjoyed opening up the packs of trading cards. But I think I might be a little bit older than you, so I kind of missed out on the Magic and Pokemon craze. Like, I think I was a little bit older when that started to get real big, so I didn't really dab too much into that. But now, even today, I love buying the new retail stuff, but one of the things I really love doing is going to like thrift stores and finding like cases and binders of just trading cards that people, for whatever reasons, like have no idea what they're giving away.
Love that. Yeah.
So that's kind of like my history when it comes to the trading cards. But so opening day is next week, and for people that are listening to the podcast, they're going to say opening day is next week. It's actually opening day now, so we're a little ahead of that. But how excited are you for the upcoming baseball season? You're stationed in Brooklyn, but how often before pandemic wise, how often did you get to go to different stadiums and ballparks?
Man, I saw a couple. I think I'd been to one Yankees game, one Mets game. I went to a New York Red Bulls soccer game, a couple NYCFC soccer games, which are at Yankee Stadium. Mm-hmm. I've been a few times. I'm excited. I think that it's going to be fun, and I'm still kind of loyal to the Bay Area. I'm excited for the A's and the Giants. But as far as going to watching baseball, I'm excited. Also, it's supposed to be 75 degrees tomorrow in New York. I can't wait for just better weather. This is going to be great.
Yeah, I'm totally stoked for it. We got opening day next week here in Philadelphia, and they're limiting about 8,000 fans at Citizens Bank Park. And I'm reading some of these different stipulations and different things that they're doing for each ballpark. And I believe Yankee Stadium and Citi Field, you have to have a clean COVID test 72 hours before first pitch in order to get into the ballpark. So I will willingly do that test. You can stick whatever you got to stick up my nose.
Yeah. Or do vaccination records null that out? I'm curious. I hope they do.
Yeah, I'm sure they probably, if you, have the card and show that you're fully vaccinated, that kind of works too. But I'm still waiting for shot number 2. I've already had shot number 1. So again, I'm just so stoked for baseball that if I was in, the New York, metro area, again, stick as many swabs as you want up my nose. I just want to see baseball again. But also one of the things I want to note is you do a live stream each week, right? Was it Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays? Kind of tell people what they can expect when tuning in.
Yeah, and it's funny, good timing, I guess, to talk about this. So the Fridays are I think I have the most fun with, and people look the most forward to, and that's where I interview other artists, usually other Tops artists. So recently I've had Distorted, Alex Pardee, DJ Ski, Gregory Siff, Brittany Palmer. It's a lot of fun. And so I think that definitely is going to continue. Every Friday I'm doing artist interviews. The Mondays and Wednesdays have been kind of in flux, and I think I'm going to start phasing those out. But in the past, I had done Mail Mondays where I would open fan mail on Mondays, and then Wednesday I would paint something. I think that it's been really fun. You know, we've got a really good core group of people that come and watch. You know, it's at 10:23 Eastern, so they call themselves the 10:23 team, the stream team, or whatever. We have a lot of nicknames for them, but I just think that like at this point where this is my third set with Topps, and I also have like so many different opportunities that confining myself to streaming 3 times a week is starting to like eat into a little bit of time that I wish I could spend doing other things. And so I think, you know, for users listening now and people going forward, I think like every Friday night, I'll be interviewing some dope artist, is the best place to start.
Yeah, I keep saying this throughout the whole episode today is, you know, I attest to a lot of things you're saying, just trying to find time to do, you know, podcasting, and just as much as I love doing it, you try to find out, or try to find time to do other things in your life, you know. But, I mean, having Brittany Palmer on the podcast, though, I mean, I think I would block out a lot of time for that interview.
For sure.
So what's something that you can kind of tease for people out there who are, you know, fans of yours, who watch the streams, that are like, you know, I love all your work with Project 70 and 2020. What's something that you can kind of tease us but can't tell us everything about coming up?
Well, okay, I got a couple things. The first thing I kind of can tell you everything about, and it is the Buster Posey card, which is the card that I painted live a week ago from Wednesday or something like that. You know, 2 weeks ago, I painted it live. That one today, it got bumped up in my launch queue. And so Mookie Betts was originally going to be my next card. Now Buster Posey is going to be my next card. And so that's exciting, and nobody knows that yet. So people hearing it now are the first ones to know. So that's pretty dope.
MMB radio exclusive right there.
There you go. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I definitely, as far as like, I've really like, I've exposed a lot of my player list and my selections. I'm really kind of open about who I'm excited about. Obviously Mark McGwire, being my favorite athlete of all time, is on my list. He's somebody I'll be painting soon. I've told people I'm doing Ricky Henderson. I've got a really exciting, I think a cool Ricky that I'm working on that's going to pair really nicely with some of the other Rickies that have already come out, that I've been a huge fan of. So it's, yeah, it's gonna be a fun year. It's a long way to go too. We have like 900 more cards total.
Wow, that many cards still to go. Wow, didn't realize. I'm constantly hitting refresh on Topps.com, you know, to see what's going on, or following people's tweets and everything. But speaking of people's tweets, I just want to get like maybe 2 or 3 questions here from fans that were tweeting in questions to me to ask to you. And one person wanted to know, who's an athlete that you would love to paint that you have yet to do a portrait or a painting of yet?
Oh man, that's a great question. Let's see here. Oh man.
And it doesn't have to be just baseball. I mean, you know, when I say athlete, it could be, you know, from any sport.
Yeah. No, I'm thinking, God, it's so, I mean, I feel like every time I get excited about working with somebody, even if I'm not doing it for them, I'll just paint them.
Mm-hmm.
Dang.
I put you on the spot there.
Question, and I'm going to think about that. Cause like, honestly, like that's the beauty about like what I do is like whenever I get excited about something, I can just do it. And I usually do. So I'm just trying to think of like somebody that's been like on my list of like, you know, that I've been meaning to do. I think that like, and it's funny because I actually like grew up like not liking Tom Brady as a football player, but have grown to appreciate him because I also just didn't like the Patriots. I'm a Niners fan.
Yeah.
But I've never painted Tom Brady, and I'm also really excited for him in Tampa. I spent some time, you know, I grew up in Florida for a little while. And so I think Tom Brady is probably the best answer to that. And like, if my dad listens to this interview, he's going to be like, what the heck? We hate Tom Brady.
Yeah. It's, you know, it's all Joe Montana. You know, you can't switch your
well, that's the thing. I've done 2 of them with Joe Montana. I grew up on Joe Montana. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, Jerry Rice is another good one. I'd never done Jerry Rice, and he was like, yeah, he was an icon.
Now, one of the other questions. Go ahead. You gonna say something?
I just said I'm going to put Jerry Rice ahead of Tom Brady, and then I said, no offense, Tom.
I'm sure, he's going to be okay. I'm sure he's got enough other things to be excited about. So I think he'll survive. But the other question that somebody brought to my attention, and it's something that I really hit home with me, is because I'm a huge collector of wrestling trading cards. I'm a big wrestling fan, and I tell people I'm a big wrestling mark. And
nice.
Guy wanted to know if you had any plans of doing anything WWE. I know WWE and Topps work together. Has that ever come across your desk, or even been talked about of doing something like that?
I'd be super open to that. I've explored, Topps and I have talked about like GPK, Mars Attacks is another property I own. I know they like the WWE stuff. I think would be super fun. I never really followed WWE. I was a very competitive high school wrestler and wanted to be a college wrestler, and an injury kind of kept me from that. But, so I have worked in the wrestling space, but it's like NCAA, or like Team Olympic Wrestling. Jordan Burroughs specifically, he's such a beast, and I did a painting for him, which was awesome. But yeah, I mean, I'm all for it.
Because I've seen on Topps website, I think they have like a WWE, like a living set, which is kind of has like that, kind of like paint kind of look to it. But it's really just a rendering, a paint version of, cards that have already been put out in a series. So I'd be interested to see like an original, design, original painting, not just something that's kind of like, no offense to Topps, so, like a paint by number thing that kind of feel like the living set was. It was just kind of like, all right, yeah, I could go in Photoshop and just say, make it, look like a painting. But I would love to see something, original. Would there be somebody that you would, iconic wrestler that you would like? I mean, you say you didn't follow it, but was there someone that you would like to tackle?
I mean, I think I've actually always wanted to work with The Rock. So I think that would be pretty dope. Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, like I didn't really follow WWE, so I don't like know. I don't know, like Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
He's an icon. But I don't know enough about it to like have a hit list already.
Yeah. Well, I mean, those two are like on most people's Mount Rushmores of wrestling, so you can't really go wrong with them,
Right.
I was kind of waiting for maybe to say like the Brooklyn Brawler or something, calling it from Brooklyn, but
I just moved to Brooklyn about 6 months ago, so I'm still learning my way around. I'm also deciding, like, I think I might have to be a Nets fan this year because we're really close to Barclays.
Oh man, I mean, coming from the Philadelphia area, you know what I mean? Like,
I know, but like, whatever. It's not even like a fair. I know they got a stacked team, and it's not a fair weather thing. It's like a proximity thing.
Mm-hmm. That's fine. I mean, for the Nets fans that be tuning in and listening to this, how's our backsides look? I mean, we are the number one seed right now in the East, so keep looking up at us. And then
they're really exciting, and I mean, I'm also a Warriors fan. Growing up in the Bay, I actually met I've had some of the coolest experiences with my art collectors at Warriors games, which is really cool. I have one of my biggest patrons has a suite, and he's always having athletes and tech execs and stuff in his suite, and I basically have art that was hanging up, and then he would invite me to games, and I could just schmooze, and it was the best place for biz dev ever.
And I got nothing but love for the Warriors, Warriors and the Athletics, again, both having ties to the Philadelphia area at one point, way before my time, but, my grandfather was a huge Athletics fan, followed him from Philadelphia to Kansas City to Oakland. So I was used to seeing at a young age lots of Athletics stuff, like Vita Blue pictures, and paper clippings from, Reggie Jackson and just, so many just Philadelphia and like I said, Oakland Athletic stuff. But, yeah, I mean, I got no problem with the Dubs, like I said, it used to be Philadelphia Warriors.
Yeah.
And then,
absolutely.
One other question that we'll take the last Twitter question we have from somebody. Somebody wanted to know, what is your most prized sports memorabilia piece that you own?
Oh, man.
Because I know you're a collector, and I know you've probably inherited some stuff. So.
No, I got a lot of really cool stuff. Okay, you know what? Okay, so it is a Oakland A's season ticket holder hat. I believe the hat is from '85, which is the year I was born. And then in it, we have season ticket holder pins from '85, '86, '87, '88. I don't remember if we had season tickets in '89 or not. But, it's just got all of our pins that, from all the games that I went to with my dad as a kid. And it was my dad's hat originally, and he gifted it to me last year. And so that is my coolest piece of sports memorabilia.
That's very awesome. Very awesome. Well, Blake, I want everybody to know where they can find you at on social media and on the World Wide Web, because, that's, from doing marketing, that is the be-all to tell-all. Where can people find you at online and stay updated with all the things that is Blake Jamieson?
Absolutely. So on every single social media channel, you can find me if you just look at my name, Blake Jamieson, Jamieson. And then my website is blake.art.
Very awesome. So make sure you check him out on there. And then Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, the 10:30 stream team, check out his work. Go over to tops.com. Check out the different stuff he's doing with Project 70. Blake, we just really appreciate you calling in and talking to us. When I told people we were going to be coming on to the podcast, a lot of people were all giddy and excited. And I know there's people that are listening out there that are far more in-depth when it comes to the sports trading card industry than I am. And, I have to admit there were some people that were a little bit jealous that I was getting the opportunity to talk to you tonight. So it was really cool getting to know you a little bit more, and we wish you much success. And I hope everybody enjoys the opening baseball. Is there anything else you want the fans to know before you dip on out of here?
No, man. I'll just end with the tagline I end everything with, which is just stay awesome.
Very awesome. That's what I used to always tell people. I was like, stay amazing, stay awesome. And we appreciate it again, man. I really appreciate you calling in.
Cool. Thanks.
What's going on, guys? You're listening to Blake Jamieson, artist for Tops, Project 70, coming at you from Brooklyn, New York. I'm here with Mixmaster B at MMB Radio.